Hi ladies and gentlemen, today is February 13th, 2017, and I'm going to be a little more relaxed and not quite so passionate or exuberant or boisterous during this little video. I thought I'd better come on because I put up some pretty heavy stuff yesterday about pedophilia and how extensive it is throughout our society and our institutions. And I wanted to point out something that I was hoping I wouldn't have to, but I did. I just had to do it. And there's another piece to this that I want you to see. Utah has been considered a conservative Republican state for a long time. Interestingly, the pretense of conservatism in the Republican Party, which shows itself as conservative, but in fact always supports the agenda of the New World Order, the elites, the deep state, etc. In other words, the old story of the left-right paradigm, the puppeteer plays both the Democrats and the Republicans, but it's all the same agenda. That's been very effective in Utah. I'm not saying I like the Republicans or the Democrats. I frankly don't like either side. Because they're both contrary to true liberty. But at any rate, I made a point in that video about pedophilia and then the why me, because I was being censored or some other things were going on. Not sure really yet what happened, although we overcame it for the most part. But the point that I want to make today is this. I mentioned some things about the Mormons, the LDS Church, and their influence on the people of Utah. Now, Utah has become a more mixed society now. A lot of people from out of state are here, but you can't kid yourself. The Mormon Church still has a lot of influence. And what I said wasn't necessarily to hurt Mormons' feelings or to hurt church, but it's just the facts of the case. And this is where I'm going with this. We all know that Trump was not supported by the LDS Church or by the state of Utah. When I say the state of Utah, I mean the people that live here. That it was a Cruz state initially, because Cruz was actually establishment, was inside. And I'm not going to slam Cruz here. I think there's plenty there to do that without me doing it. But the point is that Trump was this outsider who stood against all of this establishment that's so corrupt. Notice that in Utah there was a big push, first of all, for Cruz. And when that didn't work, did you watch and see what happened? Once you're CIA, you're always CIA. I don't know if you understand that or not, but CIA, Evan McMullin, basically went out, trashed Trump, and told everybody in this state to vote for him. Now, Utah, when the electoral process took place, when the convention process took place in Cleveland, the rules were such that the votes finally went to Trump. But that's not what they wanted, because Trump stands against all the things that we've been talking about in the establishment, and in particular the circumstances of the pedophilia and satanic ritual abuse that is very much evident in the upper echelons of the Mormon Church, LDS Church. A lot of people don't want to hear that, but it's just a fact. And I brought some of that out in the last video, and that's just the tip of the iceberg. And again, it's not just that. We know that the New World Order has captured all of the largest of the ecclesiastical institutions. Catholic, evangelicals, born-agains, and Mormons, and on and on. Even the smaller ones, where they can control people there. And it's the government that's doing it, and I think we all understand that. And if you don't understand that, you need to start understanding it. Starting with the thing with Johnson, President Johnson back in the 60s, with the 5013C to shut, using that as the excuse to shut preachers at the pulpit from talking about politics, when it was in fact the preachers during the revolution that actually charged the revolution, that actually gave it the passion and the understanding and the scriptural basis to fight against tyranny. And of course, people in power don't want that, so they kind of shut it off with this tax thing. Okay, well, that's the first thing. I just wanted to point out that there was an active CIA, New World Order action in the state of Utah that was welcomed and embraced by the senior leadership in the state, both ecclesiastical, Mormon church, and governmental. And that's why the state did what it did. A lot of smoke and mirrors everywhere. And it's really evident when you start looking below the surface in Utah. And I'm not going to spend any more time on it. I think that's it. Next thing I want to talk about, the links in the description box below. A lot of things happening in Nevada on the Bundy Ranch case, and I wanted to give these to you. I know it's going to take some time for you to look at them, but you really need to. The first is Peter Santilli's interview with Special Agent in Charge Dan Love. I was there. I witnessed the entire thing. You need to look at that and also the information in that article. And then the second article is about what the Department of Justice is trying to do to suppress the evidence that showed that the BLM was out of control and was actually causing people to say, we're not going to put up with this anymore. And the government needs to be held accountable when it uses abusive force like that, and it was way over the top. I'm not going to spend the time to explain it here, just to say that there was a judge in Texas that even told the Department of Justice that they were wrong to not tell the truth, the whole truth. And he threw the case out as an immigration case that the government, the DOJ, had brought because of that. The same thing should happen in Nevada. If they refuse to bring forth all the evidence, both that, and I know it's adversarial, but we've got to expect more from government than that they just want prosecutions and then convictions. That's wrong. The truth should prevail. I might be idealistic, but the fact that it doesn't shows that the government is not serving us in our best interests, and sometimes is our enemy. So I wanted to bring that. Please view those links. Next, President Trump has done a lot of great things. In my estimation, he had a couple of problems. I mean, there are going to be problems in there anyway. He's just a man. But he's doing his best to try to right the ship of the United States. Okay? It's sinking, and he's trying to bail out the water, get the bad stuff out, and try to get it going again. A couple things he's had some problems with as far as I was concerned. The first was torture. He's backed off on that. He listened to his Secretary of Defense, General Mattis, and conceded that that was not a good thing. And then there's this civil asset forfeiture issue. And all I would say is please write President Trump and say, look, and he's probably he wants to keep it probably to go after his enemies that have done all these things and really stick it to him. But we should tell him that we don't want anything done that's not moral and constitutional, especially the Bill of Rights and the habeas corpus thing and all that. Let's not stoop down and use these unconstitutional laws, okay? Let's take the higher ground. We can still get our enemies. We can still go after them, but we need to do it constitutionally, morally, and from the perspective that we respect their rights, even though they're our enemies. To do otherwise, we become just as bad as they are, and we don't want to do that. Civil asset forfeiture is still the government coming in, and yeah, it's a due process thing, but it's a subversion of that whole principle. And it's taking people's property, belongings, etc., and blaming the property, and it's ridiculous. The government's still taking a person's belongings without finding them guilty of a crime. So we need to change that. It's wrong. Okay. And the same thing about drugs. The drug war is wrong, and Attorney General Sessions needs to understand that prohibition didn't work in the 20s and 30s. It caused corruption, and this drug thing is the same deal. In my video that I did, Mexican Drug War or Insurgency, I explained this. And we should treat the problem with drugs as a medical problem, not as a criminal problem. Look at all the lost lives and everything that's caused. The drug war is a farce, and everybody who understands it knows. We need to back off of it and treat it in an entirely different way. We just need to. I won't go into any more depth on that at this point. I think most people understand. But let Attorney General Sessions know that we've got to change our tactics on that. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over again and expecting different results. You're not insane, Attorney General. You're not. So let's rethink this. Okay, and finally, Alex Jones in particular, and even myself and others, we get very emotional, very passionate about things. And sometimes it may not be good, but I think what it does show is our sincerity, okay? And I'm going to back to the prophets here for just a minute, the Old Testament prophets in particular, even those that we know of in the New Testament times. And since they get so that they're called crazy or mad by the rest of the population. And you can see why. If you're a mother out there and you see a rabid dog coming after your 3-year-old playing, out there, you're going to start screaming and hollering, hey, look out, So it's a passionate thing that we want to save what's good. It's not madness. It's not being crazy. It's a sense of urgency. So just think about that. Don't believe the entertainment industry when they tell you these guys, like in the movie Noah with Russell Crowe, that he was crazy. No, he has a sense of urgency. Okay, and it saddens them when they see that people are going to be hurt, subdued, enslaved, die, and they're not listening. Okay, so, and finally, I'll end with this. And I hope you take it in the spirit that it's given. I did a couple of videos about, if you see a beautiful woman, tell her so, that kind of thing. And then there's all this ranting and raving back and forth with, what about people who aren't beautiful, or they are beautiful but you don't see it, or whatever. Okay, there's a thing called the golden ratio. And we all have it within us. It's when we deny it's there that there's a problem. And you can go look this up if you want. The point is that beautiful things should be appreciated as such. We don't have to put down people that we don't think are beautiful, but there's nothing wrong with telling somebody who is, especially if it's not just physical, but also in their character and their personality, in other words, their spirit. That's the best of all worlds. But where I wanted to go with this is because I talked a lot about, the tetragrammaton, the yod, the hey. I talked about the X and Y chromosomes and all this stuff in a few videos back about, men and women and their relationship and all that. And I wanted to go back to the 2nd chapter of Genesis and give you my thoughts on something. Adam was alone. Prior to that, he had his companion. If you read the 1st chapter of Genesis, you'll understand that. But I'll just go to the 2nd chapter here. Adam was alone. God realized he was alone. And he said, it's not good for man to be alone. So let's create a woman for him. Adam was put to sleep. Okay? He went to sleep. A lot of metaphors, symbolism here, but just take it for the way it is. And God used a part of him, according to the story, again, it's metaphor, to make this woman. It's actually an incredible metaphor if you understand it deeply on several levels. But the point is this. He went to sleep alone. He woke up, and here's this beautiful woman there. Imagine what his heart felt like. That is, his companion, this beautiful woman, this female, and I know, the story of, her eating the forbidden fruit first and all that, but that's another issue at this point. The point is, we're supposed to feel these feelings. And I think that's a beautiful story, that he didn't just have to dream about her anymore, that she was real in front of him. May we all have our